Okay, in this video, I'm going to give you 3 pro tips for regripping your golf clubs. Let's go. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm AJ, I hope you're having a wonderful day. So these are 3 of my pro tips for regripping golf clubs. Now I say pro tips, these tips, yes, they're gonna be really good if you are either working in a shop or you're doing a lot of regripping, but even if you're not, even if this is gonna be the first time you've ever regripped your golf clubs, these tips are still handy, they are still applicable, and so I still think regardless of whether you've regripped 1,000 golf clubs or you've never regripped one, these tips are gonna come in handy. Also, before I start, I just wanna mention again that I am selling the Smart Stakes, the mobile phone holding devices, so that you can take your cell phone out to the golf course, stake this into the ground, and take video of your golf swing wherever you want, be it on the fairway, be it on the driving range, be it in a bunker. You can use one of these and get some good video of your golf swing. If you're interested in one of these, you can find them at smartstake.com. This is really all about right when you're getting started in the process, and it's really more specific to anyone who is using some sort of shaft clamp like this, some sort of lever activated shaft clamp versus just using a plain old vise and some sort of, rubber gripper, something like this. Now, same rules apply, but it's far less likely to happen when you're using just a regular vise. So say you've got a set of clubs, you've got your irons and then you've got your woods, and your irons are steel and your woods are graphite. So you set your shaft clamp, you can adjust it to different diameters to fit the shaft that's in there. So you would go and you'd put your irons in like that, nice and snug, no issues. You go through all your irons, no problem. However, then you move into your graphite, and without thinking about it, you just start going through your graphite shafts. And here's where the problem is. If I measure this shaft, say about 2 inches down from the end of the grip, just using my caliper, and I put it right here on this step. Okay, so I have a certain thickness here. Now if I go to this graphite shaft, and I do the same thing, at 2 inches down, well, this is actually slightly smaller than that steel shaft. So that's great. That means I shouldn't have any issues with my shaft clamp, assuming it was in the right place to start with. But let's say you then go, you've got a different model graphite shaft in another club. You go to put that in there, thinking, okay, they're all basically the same. I go down 2 inches here, my caliper is not fitting over this shaft. This shaft is thicker up here at the top. So if I take this shaft and I try to put it in my shaft clamp and I haven't adjusted it for this wider diameter, there's a good chance you're going to hear a cracking sound. And all of a sudden, that expensive golf shaft just became an expensive tomato steak. Okay, tip number 2 has to do with using build-up tape or using extra layers of tape to make the grip thicker. Now, if you're just doing one club, it doesn't matter. You put your build-up tape on, you put your double-sided tape on, you get your solvent on the grip, put the grip on, no problem. However, if you've got, say, a set of irons, you've got 8 clubs or more that all have to have this same buildup, I always recommend doing all your taping first. Think of it kind of like if you're painting your house, you always want to tape everything off before you start painting. You don't want to tape a little, then paint, then tape, then paint. You want to tape everything off first. It's kind of the same deal here, because what will happen is no matter how careful you are when you're putting the actual grip on, you're going to get some solvent on your hands. It's just going to happen. And once you get solvent on your hands, it becomes a lot harder to deal with the tape and get it to stick properly on the shaft. Now, if you've just got one layer of tape, if you're just putting one layer of double-sided tape on and going, it's not a big deal. But if you're having to layer 2 or 3 layers of build-up tape on and then put on double-sided tape, and you start to get a little bit of that solvent on the edges on that tape, it's going to become harder and harder, especially with the more layers of tape you add, to get it to stick to the shaft or stick to the layer of tape underneath. So my tip is, if you've got a set of clubs, if you've got numerous clubs that all require building up to a certain thickness, go ahead and do all your taping at one time. Get all your build-up tape, put your double-sided tape on, take the club out, set it aside, move on to the next one. Yes, it's going to slow you down a little bit in terms of taking one club out of the vise and putting another club in and going back and forth, but you will more than make up for that time because you are not going to be having to manage the tape and always checking and seeing, is it coming off a little bit? Is it starting to peel off? It'll all be there. It'll all be set so that then you can just go in once they're all ready, clamp it in, put the grip on, take it out, and just whip through the whole set. So now you've basically gone through your set. You've got all this grip solvent left in the pan. Of course, if you've watched any of my videos, you know I say always have a pan, always have a bucket to keep the solvent because you can reuse it. So make sure you use as much as possible because it's going to make putting the grips on easier. But so you get to the end of your grip job and you've got a bucket, you've got a pan that's now full of solvent. Well, so here's the tip. Because you could just go and take this bucket, this pan, and just dump it right back into your grip solvent bottle and go on your way. But the tip, the pro tip, is you want to go and strain that used solvent. Because what's going to happen when you're regripping clubs? Well, maybe the pan, maybe the bucket had a little bit of dirt, had a little bit of dust in it before you started. Even if it was completely clean and perfect, anytime you're putting grips on, there's little bits of rubber and dirt and stuff that are inside those grips. And when you start putting the grip solvent in and you pour it out, that grip, rubber, that dirt falls out, ends up in your pan. Or some of the tape residue, some of the stickiness, some of that glue from your tape gets sort of squeegeed off the tape when you put the grip on and ends up falling into your pan. Now, all of these things are going to sort of contaminate the grip solvent. Now, yes, even with that stuff in there, you can still use it again and again. It's still going to work. But if you really want it to work at its best and you plan on using the same solvent as many times as possible, you really want to strain it. So there's different ways to strain it. You can use different types of filters. In the past, I've used like window screen, that kind of mesh material, put a layer or two over a funnel and use that and poured it through, and that gets rid of the big pieces of debris in there. You could use something like a cheesecloth. You could use, something like an old shirt. What I really like to use is a coffee filter. They're inexpensive. They fit inside a funnel, obviously, very nicely, and they do a great job of cleaning out all the particles, all the residue, and leaving you with grip solvent that's basically as good as when you first opened it. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, please go down below, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you'll be alerted when I post new videos. You can find me on Instagram at Mobile Club Maker, and I will see you on the next video. Take care.